Have any of you ever experienced that time of life where you just work so much and have so much going on in your life that it just seems like a giant blur? Like you're there, but you're not there at all. Yeah, I've been in those a few times in my life, but the one that made the biggest impact on my life was in 2011. I was pastoring full time. I was working full time outside of the church. I was in seminary full time, and I was also in the midst of flipping my condo so I could sell it. Life was just crazy. Every day was the same. The only reason I knew what day of the week it was in that time was because I had to preach on Sunday, so that kept me on track just a little bit. But I worked like that for close to a year. One day I was going about my day like normal, and I experienced this awful pain in my stomach, and just kind of took the wind out of me. I brushed it aside for a few days, but that pain just kept getting worse. So I made a doctor's appointment. I went to see the doctor, and he told me that due to my high amounts of stress, I'd given myself an ulcer. An ulcer from stress? I didn't even know that was possible. I didn't know you could do that. And he gave me some meds to take care of the ulcer, but then he suggested that I give up some of the work that I was doing and take a break from life. That message for me went in one ear and out the other. You're just a doctor. What do you know, right? But thanks for the advice, doc, but you don't understand. I don't have any choice in that matter. If I don't keep up my life like this, then I'll fail seminary. I could get fired from my job, or my church could die. The message behind the message that I was telling myself is that no one else could do the work that I was doing. I was necessary there, and the world needed me, or else it could come crashing down. I tried to keep going for a bit longer, and then I actually ended up in the emergency room. I'd made myself so sick from working too much, and I was so sleep deprived. I was in such pain, and I'd given myself a panic attack that I had to go to the ER. And that's just absurd, right? I really needed to get a grip on things. Life was just too crazy. I kept doing this to myself, so I decided to follow the doctor's orders. That next week, I dropped out of seminary. I cut my job back to half-time, and I started seeing a spiritual director. All extremely good decisions for me. It was beneficial to not have to work as much as I previously was, but signing up for a spiritual director was the best decision of all because I had these underlying issues that just couldn't be addressed by simply not working. My spiritual director, he was a monk. His name was Chin Chow, and this guy was absolutely amazing. He was brilliant, he was kind, he had this calming demeanor and presence, and when he spoke, you were just drawn in by the wisdom flowing from his mouth. It was great. He was a great guy. In that time in my life, it felt awful, but without it, I would have never met Chen Chao, and in our time together, him guiding me through life, he taught me a very valuable lesson. Everything in life has a rhythm to it. And when we work nonstop, with no breaks to rest and celebrate the gift of life, we're breaking with the natural rhythms of life. What a great concept, right? Yeah, everything in life has rhythm to it. And when we don't pause, we're missing out on moments of actually being present. Of course, yeah. Think about life for a second. There's a rhythm to every one of your days because there's a rhythm to everything. You just took a breath. You're about to take another breath. Inhale, then exhale. Then another inhale. In and out. There's a rhythm to your breathing. It's amazing how beneficial it is to be aware of our breathing. It's the same with nature. There's a gradual dying of fall, the death of winter, the spring with new life bursting forth everywhere you look, and then summer comes in all of its fullness. And then fall comes again. And the rhythm continues. It's surprising to me how people in the Midwest are so surprised by these natural rhythms. Every year when it snows, I have at least 20 people on my Facebook post pics of it snowing and will say things like, what's happening? It's snowing. Well, didn't we expect this? And it's been a part of nature since the dawn of time. How could you be so surprised by this if you've lived in the Midwest your whole life? And there's a natural rhythm to waking and sleeping. When you wake up, your body is firing with cortisol, which gradually tapers off as the day goes on. Cortisol is related to adrenaline, giving you the energy you need to go about your day. And then later in the day, as the sun goes down, your body begins releasing melatonin, anticipating the end of the day when you'll just drift off into a nice deep sleep. Have you ever been lying in bed right before sleep and you're either on your phone, you got your computer out, your laptop, or you're watching TV lying in bed? You close the phone or you turn off the TV, you close that device, and then 2 hours later you're still staring at the ceiling wide awake. Yeah, that device and the light is keeping you awake, which is actually breaking with the natural rhythm of the day. It's causing you disruption. My pops, he worked third shift his whole life, and I don't think he ever got used to it. And of course not. It's going against this natural rhythm of life so that we have more time to work. We have more time to produce. People work third shift because production. In the book of Exodus, we find that the Hebrew people, they were slaves in Egypt and had to make bricks every day. Bricks, and more bricks, day after day, every day the same. That's despair, right? When every day looks like every other day. When we don't even know what day it is because we're going so hard without a break. But then these Hebrews are rescued from Egypt and they're brought out into the desert where God commands them to set aside 1 day a week and do no work. Exodus 20 verses 8 through 11 says, "Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work. You, your son or your daughter, your male or female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and the sea and all that is in them, but rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it." And the funny thing about this passage is that some of these Hebrew people, these Israelites, they can't even do that. They can't even take a day off from work. In Egypt, their worth and value as slaves came from how many bricks they produced every day. And when they left that life, they left that understanding of what it meant to be a human being. And so one of the first things that they are told to do is spend 1 day a week, remembering that they are not slaves anymore and that their worth and value do not come from how many bricks they produce. Their worth and value come from their existence. They are worthy because they are children of God. They are valuable because they are human beings. No amount of work, no amount of production could earn them any more worth or value in the eyes of God. 1 day a week to remind themselves that they are human beings, not human doings. In the Genesis 1 poem, God finishes creating on the 6th day and rests on the 7th day. We aren't told that God rests because God is tired. God rests because creation isn't complete without rest. Rest is that component that seems to finalize creation. Think about rest with me. We're here. We work, we produce. And when we don't take time to step back from constant production and creativity, we aren't able to celebrate and enjoy the completed work. Have you ever finished a project at work or done something to your house, and the moment you finish, you've moved on to the next thing? Yeah, I wonder what that thing would be like if we had a moment to celebrate our finished creation. It's like we take a moment to celebrate what we had just created, our completion. It's as if Sabbath allows for you to realign yourself with the rhythm of the universe. But in all honesty, speaking personally, I'm horrible at taking a Sabbath. At this point in my life, I work 7 days a week, and unfortunately my schedule is pretty stuck for the moment, just with very little wiggle room. And I'm also in the beginning stages of remodeling my basement and a couple rooms upstairs. And do we see a common trend in my life? I learned so much from Chen Chao, and it's so easy to slip right back into the grind of life. Production, more production. Studying for this sermon has actually been pretty difficult for me because I don't ever want to approach you all with an attitude of do what I say and not what I do, that type of deal, So despite not being able to fully disengage for one full day, I've decided that on Fridays, after I get off of work from my morning job, I need to be intentional with my time and my decisions to enter into a Sabbath. For me, Friday afternoons will be a day when my work is done, even if it isn't. My Sabbath is going to be a day when my only job is to enjoy life. My wife, Roxy, she has Fridays off work, so my Friday afternoons will also be a day when I'm fully available to myself and those that I love the most. My Sabbath, it will be a day when I produce nothing and remind myself that I'm just not a machine, with no phone, no email, no work. I'm telling you about this commitment that I'm making, or I plan to make, because my health and well-being, or even lack thereof, will also impact you. If I'm not healthy, I can't lead this community into healthy places. And if we truly are a community of people who are involved in one another's lives, living in community with each other, then your health is also a player in who we are as a unified body. So then, what does taking a Sabbath look like for you? If you're a person who still works a job every day and you're caught up in this whirlwind or black hole of productivity, then it may be beneficial for you to sit down, maybe complete one of those time management sheets, come to an understanding of when you would be able to enter into a Sabbath or rest, and figure out when you can just enjoy life. You can sit back and breathe and meditate. Sit and just be. But what if you're retired, though? We have a good deal of retired folks in our church. So what does Sabbath look like for you when you don't have a number of pressing matters to attend to every day, like someone who still has a 9 to 5? For you, what if you took a break from your normal routine? It's true, you may not have 8 hours of work to complete each and every day, but I bet you still have somewhat of a routine, right? I remember thinking that while I was in college, when I graduate, I'll have all the time to do X, Y, and Z. And then when I graduated, I had less time. Or if I had all the time in the world, I do this and that, and then COVID hit and I lost my job. I had all the time I could have ever asked for, and it was so difficult to be productive. So if retirement is anything like, the quote, that next best thing, where I feel like I'll do everything I could have ever dreamed, then it's probably going to be difficult to be intentional about making time to just sit and reflect. So I ask, how is it with your soul right now? What kinds of things can you engage in that brings you joy to your life? A Sabbath of rest and relaxation might not be what you need per se, but a Sabbath of creativity and curiosity might be what you could do to spark some enjoyment and connectedness with something deeper inside of yourself, where you find yourself connecting with God in new ways, or in practices you possibly used to engage in but just haven't engaged in for a while. The discipline of Sabbath ultimately is to enter into joy. I haven't always found it easy to simply enjoy the life I already have. I have an awful tendency to believe that the grass is always going to be greener. So a good question for Sabbath, and especially for me, is what would I enjoy doing or not doing with God today? This is very similar to last week's sermon in regard to thin places. Like, what am I intentionally going to do or not do to find joy in God's presence? Because when we really enjoy God's presence, isn't that a thin space? Isn't that ultimately what prayer is about? So what I've seen in my life in the past when I've actually practiced Sabbath, and what I've seen in the lives of my former parishioners when they've made an effort to participate in some form of Sabbath, is a richer engagement with yourself and those near you, those closest to you. Because Sabbath, like I said, is a time to enter into joy, but it's also a day to see. It allows the Spirit of God to show us how to keep our eyes open to the good that surrounds us, the good that's everywhere around us. And that's what we want, right? We want eyes to see. Because life is a gift. Every breath is a gift. And when we treat it as such, we become aware of the generous, extraordinary, mysterious, inexplicable rhythm of life that is a massive gift from God. So may you take a time to rest. May you take a Sabbath for curiosity and creativity, so that your eyes will be open to this wonderful, amazing, fantastic gift that we all have, so that you can enter into joy. and enter into a time of a thin space where you connect with yourself and connect with God. Amen.